She gave her virginity to a disabled billionaire. Not for love, not for money, but to save her dying mother's life. What she thought would be one night of shame became the beginning of something no one expected. But when the world found out, they didn't see love, they saw scandal. She walked away to protect him, but he did the impossible to bring her back. Stay with us to the end for the most heartwarming twist you'll never forget. Emma Blake had always believed life would begin after graduation. She had worked so hard, nights filled with textbooks and coffee, days with volunteer work, internships and dreaming. Psychology was her passion, understanding people, healing them. She wanted to open a wellness clinic one day, maybe in the heart of Ohio, where mental health was still treated like a whisper. People said she was quiet, gentle, graceful, but inside Emma carried a storm no one saw. That storm exploded the day her mother collapsed in their small kitchen. It was supposed to be an ordinary morning. Linda Blake was humming softly as she sliced apples for a pie, her hands shaky but still strong. Emma had just brewed coffee when she heard the crash. A plate shattered. Her mother was on the floor, eyes wide with pain, lips trembling. The ER lights were cold, the hallways long. Emma sat alone in the waiting room, her hands clutched around her phone. Her fingers kept shaking. She kept dialing numbers. No one picked up. And then the doctor came out, with a clipboard in hand and sorrow in his eyes. "Your mother has advanced congestive heart failure," he said gently. "She'll need a transplant or a very complex surgery. Without it, weeks, maybe months." Emma blinked. How much? The answer knocked the breath out of her. $312,000. She felt like the ground had opened beneath her. Every plan, every dream, gone in a single heartbeat. Emma sold everything she could. Her car, her grandmother's ring, the tiny jewelry box her dad had given her before he died. She emptied every account, every drawer, and even took out student loans she hadn't planned on. Friends tried to help. Her best friend Layla launched a fundraiser. Professors from her university emailed contacts, wrote letters, even donated. They raised $17,400. It wasn't enough. It was never going to be enough. Emma began working nights at a community counseling center, doing shifts no one else wanted. She stopped sleeping. She stopped eating. She wore the same black hoodie for 3 weeks straight, not because she didn't have clothes, but because she was too tired to care. She visited her mother every day. Linda smiled through her oxygen mask, eyes crinkling at the corners, though her body grew weaker. "I'm proud of you, baby," she whispered. "You always fix things. Just promise me you won't break yourself doing it." But Emma was already breaking, and no one saw it. No one knew how her smile had turned into a mask. No one knew how she cried in hospital bathrooms, clutching paper towels to muffle the sound. One night it was raining, hard. The windows of the hospital rattled, and thunder rolled like distant grief. Emma sat in the hallway outside her mother's ICU room, knees pulled to her chest. Her mom had fallen asleep again, face pale as moonlight, lips dry. Wires and machines surrounded her like a cage. The sound of her breathing through a mask was sharp and shallow. Emma closed her eyes. She remembered their old house, the Christmas lights they hung even when they had no money. She remembered how her mother danced with her in the kitchen, even when her heart had started weakening years ago. Linda never complained. She never stopped being kind. And now Emma was powerless. She pulled out her phone, typed how to get money fast. Scams, loans, danger. She scrolled for hours, numb, until her battery died. She placed her forehead on her mom's cold hospital bed rail and whispered, "I'll save you, Mom." Her voice trembled. Tears slid silently down her cheeks, wetting the thin blanket. "I don't care what I have to do. I'll save you, even if I have to give up everything, even if I lose myself. I promise." 4 days after Emma made her vow, she received an email from an address she didn't recognize. It came at 2:03 a.m., while she sat beside her mother's hospital bed, watching the monitors blink like tired stars. She almost didn't open it. She thought it was spam, but the subject line stopped her breath. Private arrangement proposal. Immediate compensation, $350,000. Her hands froze on the screen. She blinked twice, thinking it was a mistake. But curiosity and desperation made her click. It was from an exclusive agency known only in hidden whispers, the Garnet Circle. They weren't escorts. They were negotiators of private, one-time arrangements between the ultra-wealthy and women who signed NDAs tighter than prison walls. The email was brief, professional. A high-profile client has reviewed your file and background. He is willing to offer $350,000 for one night. No violence, no recordings, no future contact. You retain full rights to leave at any time. The decision is yours. Emma's blood ran cold. She stared at the screen for what felt like hours. Every bone in her body screamed no. Her dignity, her dreams, her soul all recoiled. It felt like a betrayal of everything she was raised to believe. And yet, her mother was dying. Every second was precious. Every delay could be the last. She deleted the message, then recovered it 5 minutes later. She paced outside the ICU at 3 a.m., whispering into the dark. What am I even thinking? She sobbed quietly, her fists clenched so tight her nails cut into her palms. But that number, $350,000. It was more than the surgery cost. It was freedom. She didn't respond. Not that night. Not the next. But 3 days later, her mother slipped into unconsciousness for 27 terrifying minutes. Doctors revived her, but her lungs were weaker. And that night, Emma replied to the email with 2 words, I accept. The agency moved fast. She signed forms that made her feel like a ghost. No ID shared, no location revealed. A car would pick her up Friday night and bring her to the location. All medical bills would be covered by Monday morning. Her hands shook as she packed. What did one wear for a night like this? Was it a date? A transaction? A crime? She looked in the mirror and barely recognized the pale girl staring back. Friday arrived. A sleek black car pulled up to her apartment. The driver didn't speak. They drove for hours, past city lights, deep into the countryside where the world was quiet. By the time they arrived at the estate, Emma's heart was thundering so loudly she felt dizzy. It was a mansion like something out of a film, modern, cold, with tall steel gates and stone pillars. She stepped out, her heels sinking into the gravel driveway. The front door opened before she could knock, and there he was, Lucas Grant. He was nothing like she'd imagined. Younger, sharper, devastatingly handsome in a quiet, hardened way. He sat in a sleek, high-tech wheelchair, one hand resting on the armrest, the other tucked into his lap. He wore a black button-down, sleeves rolled just enough to reveal a tattoo that twisted around his wrist like smoke. Their eyes met. Time stopped. Emma had expected hunger, or cruelty, or maybe pity. But what she saw in Lucas Grant's eyes was distance, caution, a storm buried behind glass. He looked at her, then nodded once. I'm Lucas, he said. His voice was deep, clear, but held a note of tiredness that came from years of silence. She nodded, too nervous to reply. He moved his chair aside and gestured inward. Come in. You're safe here. She stepped inside, half expecting him to lock the door behind her. But he didn't. Instead, he wheeled past her into a sunken living room with low lights and windows that overlooked a lake lit by moonlight. He didn't offer her wine or gifts. There were no roses, no games, just silence. Then Lucas turned to her slowly and said the one thing that would break every wall she had up. You don't owe me anything you don't want to give. Emma blinked. Her throat tightened. He must have seen the confusion in her eyes because he added, I needed to feel something real, even for one night. But if you walk away now, I'll still send the money. What? She whispered. Lucas looked away. You already gave me something no one else has in years. Your truth. And for the first time in weeks, Emma felt something other than fear. She felt seen. The walls of Lucas Grant's estate were soaked in silence. Not the cold silence of tension, but the kind that carried weight, of grief, isolation, and untold stories. Emma sat on the edge of a leather couch, her hands in her lap, unsure what to say, unsure where to look. She expected champagne, roses, maybe a locked door. Instead, she got stillness and a man with haunted eyes who rolled into the room with a cup of tea. For her. Chamomile, he said quietly. It helps calm the nerves. My therapist insisted. She took the cup with shaking hands. Thank you, she whispered. Lucas didn't sit across the room like she expected. Instead, he rolled to the opposite end of the couch and simply said, You can breathe now. I'm not that guy. Emma let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. He didn't ask her to undress, didn't demand anything. Instead, he leaned back and looked at her like she was a person, not a price tag. So, he said after a few moments, What's your story, Emma Blake? She hesitated. No one had asked her that in weeks. Everyone around her only asked how much, how soon, how bad. I'm just a girl trying to save her mom, she said softly. Lucas nodded, encouraging her. So she kept going. She told him about college, about long nights in cold libraries, about her mom working 2 jobs to get her through school. She talked about the day her mother collapsed, the sterile hospital halls, the hopelessness in doctors' voices. She didn't even realize she was crying until she felt the warmth roll down her cheeks. Lucas didn't interrupt, didn't comfort her with empty words. He just sat there, listening, with a stillness that felt more intimate than any touch. And then he told her his story. He was a tech prodigy at 19, a millionaire at 21. But speed was his addiction. Fast cars, fast success, fast risks, until the night a race went wrong, steel met concrete. 3 seconds of sound, then nothing. He woke up unable to move anything below his ribs. My fiancé left, he said flatly. My board tried to remove me. Friends stopped visiting. Everyone wanted the version of me that walked. Emma blinked. I don't want a version of you. I don't even know you. Lucas smirked, then sighed. Exactly. Hours passed and the clock became meaningless. They talked about fear, about loneliness, about how quiet the world became when people thought you were too broken to matter. And somewhere in that long, unexpected night, something shifted. Emma laughed for the first time in weeks when Lucas told her he once coded a robot to bring him cereal in bed. It set fire to the curtains. Lucas smiled, genuinely, when she told him her dream of opening a mental health center where no one had to prove they were sick enough to get help. He looked at her then. Really looked. You're not a girl trying to save her mom, he said. You're a woman willing to break herself to save someone else. That's not weakness. That's power. Emma stared at him, her heart pounding, not from fear, but from the terrifying comfort of being understood. The sun was rising by the time they both fell asleep in the same room, on different ends of the couch. No touch, no kiss, just breath and silence. When she awoke, a soft blanket had been placed over her. Lucas was at his desk typing something, but he turned when he saw her stir. Good morning, he said. Emma sat up slowly. Did I fall asleep? You needed it. She nodded. Lucas rolled to the kitchen, made her toast and eggs. She couldn't eat much, but the effort left her speechless. After breakfast, he pulled out his phone and opened a secure banking app. You'll get a notification in a few minutes, he said. Emma swallowed. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. He looked at her one last time, intense, gentle, guarded. You're brave, he said. You didn't sell your body. You gave your heart. That's far more valuable. Emma's throat tightened. She felt exposed, seen in a way that made her uncomfortable and safe. She stood unsure how to say goodbye to a man she hadn't touched, but who had touched something deep in her. As she reached the door, he called out, If you ever want to just talk again, no contracts, no money, the door's open. She nodded, lips pressed together. Then she left. Back in the hospital, her mom was stable, but still unconscious. Emma stared at the payment confirmation on her phone. $350,000 wired. Just like that. The bills were paid that afternoon. The surgery was scheduled. Hope had a pulse again. But Emma couldn't stop thinking about the man who didn't ask for her body, only her truth. 31 days had passed since Emma walked out of Lucas Grant's mansion, but she remembered every detail. The softness in his voice, the strange warmth of his eyes, and how, despite everything, she didn't regret it. Her mother's surgery had gone well. She was still weak, still recovering, but breathing stronger, laughing more. Emma spent every spare minute by her side, reading her books, telling her stories. But at night, alone in her apartment, her thoughts always wandered to him. Did he think about her too? She never expected to hear from him again. And then the email came. Subject line, employment opportunity, Sunrise Mind and Wellness Foundation. Sender, Lucas Grant. Her heart skipped a beat. She clicked. Emma, I've been building something that aligns with your dream. Mental health support, accessible therapy, real change. We're opening 3 centers this year. I want you to be part of it. Program director position, full benefits, full autonomy, salary negotiable. Come see for yourself. No pressure. Lucas Emma stared at the screen, heart racing. Her fingers hovered over the keys. Should she? Every voice in her head screamed yes and no. Would working with him blur the lines she tried so hard to keep clear? Would people talk? Would he? And yet, how could she say no to the dream she once thought impossible? 2 days later, she arrived at the headquarters. It wasn't a glass skyscraper or a tech tower. It was a converted old library on a quiet street downtown, with vines crawling up the brick, and hope tucked inside the walls. The receptionist smiled when Emma gave her name. Mr. Grant is waiting in the garden. Garden? She stepped out through a pair of French doors into a courtyard, glowing with soft sunlight, tall trees and blooming jasmine. And there he was, Lucas, in his wheelchair, rolling slowly along a cobblestone path, reading something on a tablet. He looked up as she approached and smiled. Not a fake smile, not polite, a real one, subtle, earnest, like his heart had remembered hers. Hey, he said softly. Emma folded her arms, mostly to steady her shaking hands. I didn't expect you to be the boss. You didn't ask, he shrugged. She tilted her head. So, is this a guilt hire? Lucas raised an eyebrow. Do you really think I'd spend millions just to pretend I don't admire you? Emma blinked. She wasn't ready for that. He gestured toward the bench beside him. Walk with me. Or, roll with me. She laughed despite herself. You haven't changed. Sure I have, he said. Now I make job offers instead of strange proposals. Over the next few weeks, Emma joined the foundation. She was brilliant at her job, organizing community programs, designing therapy models for underserved populations, building outreach plans for teens and veterans. She worked late, skipped breaks, and always had ink on her fingers from scribbling ideas on napkins and whiteboards. But working closely with Lucas was different. He was sharp, witty, sarcastic as hell. He hated meetings but loved solving impossible problems. He rolled through the hallways like a storm in motion, fast, driven, but always watching. Most people still treated him like glass. Emma didn't. She challenged him. This program's too clinical, she said one morning. You're targeting numbers, not people. Lucas narrowed his eyes. I am people. Emma crossed her arms. Then act like it. He stared at her for a long time, then smiled. No one talks to me like that. Maybe that's your problem, she said. They became a strange kind of team. He built systems. She gave them soul. He saw barriers. She saw doors. Sometimes they stayed late together, sharing tea, brainstorming in soft candlelight. One night, as the rain tapped gently on the windows, Emma asked him, Why did you really ask me to come here? Lucas leaned back, his eyes distant. Because you're the first person who didn't look at me like I was half a man. Emma's breath caught. He turned his head toward her, voice lower now. You didn't flinch when I talked about pain. You didn't lie when you said you were scared. And that night, when you sat across from me like I mattered, I started breathing again. The words hung in the air between them, heavy, sacred. Emma said nothing, but her silence wasn't empty. It was full of emotion, full of something unspoken, something neither of them was ready to name yet. In the weeks that followed, people noticed the change in Lucas. He laughed more. He rolled with purpose. He joked with the team, even complimented a barista's terrible coffee once. Mr. Grant, you good? One intern asked. Lucas smirked. Better than I've been in years. Emma didn't see it. But every time she walked into the room, carrying a file, a joke, or just her quiet presence? Lucas smiled, and for a man who hadn't truly smiled since the crash, that meant everything. For a while it was beautiful. The world didn't know, but between Lucas and Emma, something sacred was growing. Slow, tender, unspoken. Their eyes lingered longer. Their voices softened in each other's presence. There were no confessions, no titles, but everything about them whispered love. And then, the storm. It started as a whisper in a gossip forum, a username no one recognized. Ask Lucas Grant why he wired $350,000 to a nobody waitress a month before hiring her. Emma was at the community center when her phone buzzed. By the time she looked up, the whispers had turned into screaming headlines. CEO paid for sex, then hired his mistress? From bed to boardroom, who is Emma Blake? Disabled billionaires, love scandal rocks, wellness empire. Her stomach dropped. She couldn't breathe. Dozens of missed calls, voicemails, texts from strangers. She opened one news article and saw a screenshot. An anonymous source had leaked the original agency offer. Her name, the amount, the date. They twisted it all, made her love story into something dirty, something shameful. She ran to her office, heart pounding, tears blurring her vision. Lucas was already there, staring at a tablet with unreadable eyes. Emma's voice trembled. Who? How did this? He didn't look up. Former IT lead, the one I fired for embezzling. He had access to archived comms. Emma's breath caught. So it's all true now, isn't it? Everyone thinks I slept my way into this job. Lucas's jaw clenched. I'll handle it. But the fallout was spreading fast. Investors were panicking. 3 pulled out. 2 more threatened to freeze funds. Volunteers were quitting. Donors rescinding pledges. Emma was trending on social media for all the wrong reasons. Whore, gold digger, opportunist, fraud. She tried to keep working, tried to ignore the whispers in the hallway, the stares, the way the staff suddenly stopped smiling when she passed by. But what cut deepest wasn't strangers. It was the question eating her alive. Does Lucas love me, or does he just feel sorry for me? They hadn't kissed. They hadn't even spoken the word love aloud. And now, it felt like they might never get the chance. That night, Emma stood outside his private office, her fists balled at her sides. He opened the door before she knocked. Don't, he said gently, but she needed to. I can't be the reason you lose everything, she whispered. You're not. Don't lie to me. Lucas looked at her then, truly looked at her, and for a moment his expression faltered. Not with pity, but something else. Emma, this wasn't your fault. But I'm still the face of the scandal, she said, voice cracking. You'll never recover while I'm around. She turned away. Lucas rolled toward her, panic flickering beneath his calm. Emma! She stopped. I love this place, Lucas. I love what we built. But I won't watch you get torn apart because of a mistake I made in desperation. His eyes searched hers. Was it a mistake? He asked. Emma hesitated. No, she whispered. But it feels like the world will never let us have peace. The next morning she was gone. No note. No dramatic farewell. Just an empty desk, a revoked badge, and silence. Lucas sat alone in the therapy garden they built together. Fingers interlocked, head bowed. Everyone expected a statement, a press conference, legal threats. He gave none. He said nothing. Because Emma was right. No words could change how the world sees love when it's wrapped in controversy. 2 months passed like a slow ache through Emma's bones. She had vanished from the foundation, the media, and Lucas's life, but not from her mother's side. Linda's condition had worsened. Complications set in. The scar tissue from the first surgery spread. Her heart was failing again, this time beyond repair. She was now back in the ICU, tubes in her nose, monitors blinking every second. The transplant list offered little hope. Her blood type was rare, her body weak. Doctors gave her weeks, maybe days. Emma clung to her mother's hand, the same way she had on that first terrifying night. But this time, she had no plan. No more desperation left to sell. No billion-dollar stranger to bargain with. Just tears. Just silence. The hospital smelled like bleach and sorrow. Emma hadn't eaten in a day. Her phone lay dead in her bag, along with every missed call from Lucas she never returned. She couldn't face him. Not after the media storm. Not after walking away. She still loved him. But love, she thought, wasn't always enough. And then, near midnight, the doors to the ICU burst open. A nurse called her name. "Miss Blake, there's someone here. He says it's urgent." Emma looked up, confused, then froze. Lucas stood in the hallway, unshaved, pale, dressed in a wrinkled hoodie and hospital-issue visitor tag. He looked like a man who hadn't slept in weeks, and his eyes, they held a storm. Before she could speak, he crossed the hallway in his wheelchair, faster than anyone should be able to, and grabbed her hand. "I should have fought for you," he said, breathless. Emma blinked, stunned. "I let you walk away because I thought maybe you needed to. Maybe I didn't deserve you," he continued, voice breaking. "But you never used me, Emma. You saved your mom, and you gave me something no one ever gave me. Not out of guilt or pity or PR, just you." She didn't know whether to speak, cry, or run. Then he pulled something from his bag, a document, a medical clearance letter, a certificate. He handed it to her with shaking fingers. "I started a foundation in your mother's name," Lucas said. "2 months ago. Private fund. Anonymous at first." Emma's mouth fell open. Lucas kept going. "I built a national donor network with an AI matching system. Something my team's been working on for years, but no one would greenlight it. So I paid for it myself. Quietly. I told them to look for rare matches. Edge cases." He looked into her eyes. "I checked her file this morning. She was added to the smart queue. And by some impossible divine miracle, a match showed up today." Emma staggered back. "No, that can't. Lucas, is this a joke?" He shook his head. "I flew here the second I saw the alert. I made the surgeon promise not to move until you said yes." Tears streamed down Emma's face. Lucas rolled forward and gently took her hands. "Emma, I can't save the world, but I can save this piece of it. With you. For you. Because of you." Her knees gave out. She dropped beside him, sobbing into his chest. "She's going to live?" she choked. He nodded, voice cracking. "She's going to live." The next hours blurred into sirens, scrubs, signatures, and surgical prep. Emma held her mom's hand one last time before the nurses wheeled her away. She whispered, "I love you, Mama. Your heart's coming home." Lucas never left her side. In the waiting room, he held her as she cried. And after hours that felt like centuries, the surgeon returned with a smile. "It was a success," he said. Emma collapsed into Lucas's arms, overwhelmed with joy, disbelief, and something deeper, peace. 2 weeks later, Linda was sitting up in bed, reading cookbooks and demanding real coffee. Emma wheeled her through the garden outside the hospital, beaming. Lucas visited every day, quiet, respectful, hopeful. Until one afternoon, as golden light streamed through the trees, Linda looked him straight in the eye and said, "Are you going to marry my daughter or keep pretending this is just gratitude?" Lucas laughed, for real this time. He turned to Emma, eyes warm. "I'm not perfect. I'm not whole. But I love you, Emma Blake. You saved me long before I saved you." Emma swallowed a sob. "I wasn't looking for love, Lucas. I was looking for a miracle, and I found both." That fall, they held a small press conference. Lucas revealed the full story, the deal, the truth, the pain behind the headlines. Not to clear his name, but to change the narrative, to expose how poverty, desperation, and love often intersect in ways society is too quick to shame. "I didn't buy a woman," he told the cameras. "I met someone who would give everything for her mother, and in doing so, she gave me back my humanity." Emma stepped beside him, proud and unafraid. "I'm not ashamed," she said, "because love isn't shameful. Survival isn't shameful. And no one should have to sell their body or soul to save a parent's life." The room fell silent, and somewhere in the hearts of people who had judged too quickly, something changed. They married the next spring in the hospital garden where her mother first met Lucas. Linda walked Emma down the aisle. strong, smiling, alive. The foundation expanded to 5 cities, thousands of lives saved. Emma became the face not of scandal, but of second chances. And every morning, as Lucas wheeled beside her to work, he whispered, "Still the best deal I ever made." We live in a world that judges too quickly, especially when love crosses boundaries of wealth, disability, desperation, or sacrifice. But love is not a transaction. It's an act of courage, of faith, of believing that even the most broken hearts can find healing in each other. To the ones who loved in silence, fought in secret, and gave everything without applause, this story is for you.